that lit up.
What a way. I was like, oh, it's not coming. It's coming.
Fuck your cold open. This is what I'm doing.
All right. All right. Go ahead.
Whoa.
You're blue. You're purple.
Oh, yes. Wait.
You're purple.
Oh, my God. I kept reading the don't forget to adjust, and I was like, are we saying that? Okay, sorry. Welcome to Celluloid Chronicles,
a historical movie podcast.
I'm Brick.
I'm Birdy, and we are in our first episode post-launch. Literally the day after. Yeah, literally the day after. We're super excited. We're already like, oh my God, we're on a timeline now, so.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because we are here to talk about a really cool movie.
This was fantastic. I never seen it before.
Okay, I've seen it once. I thought I saw it with my husband, but apparently not, because it came out in 2004 and I saw it in theaters. So I must have seen it with an ex, and I just switched the people in my memory.
I mean, when people suck, you just switch them up for good ones.
You just flip that switch, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we are here to talk about the movie Ray. It's about the life and times of Ray Charles. We are going to give a quick trigger warning. This movie does involve a child death, drug use, racism, misogyny, and emotional abuse.
Yeah, a lot of gaslighting.
So much gaslighting.
And just want to say, so since I'll be going over the details in the movie, I'm not going to say the N-word. Absolutely not. And I imagine everybody understands why, but I'll just, be replacing that. But as Birdie said, there is a lot of racism in this movie, and this is coming from two white women.
Yes.
So we ask anybody to just please give us some grace that if we say something that we have no right to say, or if we have said something that is offensive, it was unintentional, and please let us know so we do not repeat that.
Yes, because we do want to make sure to highlight other minority movies on this podcast, and I think this might be our first dive into a Black centralized movie.
Yes.
So we're going to do our best, but we definitely want to highlight these movies. So
and as much as we can empathize, we will never ever understand what racism is like,
and
what people, it's not something that we can ever know.
Yeah.
So we're going to do our best. Please let us know if you feel that we say something
inappropriate.
Yes, or something that you feel we should be educated about.
Yep. Absolutely. And we will educate ourselves. You just have to let us know what the problem is.
Just let us know, bitch, don't say that, and then we'll look up why.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So yeah, this movie is interesting because obviously it spans from the 1930s to the 1979 specifically, but it's the life of Ray Charles Robinson, who passed away in 2004, literally 3 months before this movie came out.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months before this movie came out. And his life was wild.
Oh my God.
And he was a very complicated man.
Yes, very much so.
This movie is interesting because there are plenty of parts that they gloss over, as I found in my historical side, but they also highlight several of his faults. So it's a mixed bag a bit, but there was plenty of people who knew Ray Charles that kind of worked on this movie as well. I kind of question a bit of some of their motives, but that's with any biopic.
Yeah.
This is a biopic. I think it's pretty fair to the history, I suppose.
I know Quincy Jones was really involved, and
was he?
And he would have been coming from a place of love. They truly
did like each other.
Yeah, they truly loved each other, and they thought of each other as brothers. So
yeah. I didn't see a lot of I know they worked on material together, at least at a couple points, but in the movie it's only he saw him 2 times. But it was interesting.
Yeah, so. They kind of go very quick over their relationship was sad.
Yeah.
I was happy though. So the one character that I guess was an amalgamation of a few different people, Jeff. The gentleman that he meets, and he ends up becoming like his best friend, and he's there like for
his manager.
Yeah, and he is.
Jeff was real.
No, well, the character that they make is based on a couple different Jeffs.
Oh,
and that made me happy because of how sad their relationship ends. I was like, God, I hope there wasn't somebody that it ended like this, because he was there for him for everything.
Yeah, because Jeff Brown was his name, and I know he was his manager for like 15 years or something, and they did have a falling out from what I saw.
Okay. Well, I guess the character it would mostly be from him, but they threw in a couple different men that he worked with.
Okay. Well, we are getting ahead of ourselves, why don't we go ahead and start? Brick, will you take us in?
Yes. So as Birdie already told us, this is from 2004. This was written and directed by Taylor Hackford and also written by James L. White. There's a lot of big name people in here, including Kerry Washington and Regina King. And going into this knowing very, very little about it, as soon as I saw their names, I was like, oh, this is going to be fucking good. The movie opens, and I really like the credits. It's showing Ray playing piano. He's playing What I Say. And we go into a memory of his mother, Aretha, telling him to remember his promise never to let nobody or nothing turn you into a cripple. And I know cripple's not great, but that is the word they use. And
that is the word his mother used.
Yes. So. Then we go to 1948, and Ray is waiting for a bus he's in Florida. He's going to Seattle. And important note, this is the Jim Crow South. So when the bus pulls up and people are getting off, the bus driver, he's directing the white passengers inside for hot food and restrooms, and the black passengers to the back to order sandwiches from a window and use the outhouses. Ray gets his attention. He's going to Seattle. The man notices that he's blind and figures out that he is there by himself, and at first refuses to board him because he does not want to be responsible for a blind black man. But Ray tells him that he lost his sight in Normandy. Now, normally, I would get very pissed off about stolen valor, but you know what? It protected him, so...
It did. I love this.
Yeah, gonna let it slide.
No idea if this was something that actually happened, but... I have no clue, I hope people use this back in the day.
Yeah,
so.
You know what? Fuck it. If it protects you, use it. Mm-hmm. But tells him that he lost his sight in Normandy and instantly changes dude's mind. I'm gonna look out for you myself. Mm-hmm. And while they're on the road, he has a flashback. Just... heads up, there are a lot of flashbacks and a lot of montages in this movie. Yeah. While they're writing, he does have a flashback to about 2 years before when he auditioned for a country band, and this was an all-white country band. One of the players met him, thought he'd be great for their piano player, brought him in, and the manager is a racist, and oh no, absolutely not. Till he starts playing the piano, and he basically gets outnumbered. Everybody else wants him. He's like, fine, whatever, and allows him to stay. When he gets to Seattle and he is heading to a club to meet his friend Gossie McGee about a job at the club, and the club is called the Rocking Chair. But when he gets out of the cab, the very first person he meets is Quincy Jones, who they immediately strike it off. He offers to take him inside and introduce him around, but the doorman won't let Quincy in because he's underage.
And from what I saw, he was 15.
Oh my God.
At the time.
Oh, and he was like
15. Like, I don't know if
he knew what he wanted to do.
They didn't really state a lot of character ages in this movie.
Yeah.
But, and Ray at the time was 16.
Yeah, that surprised me. I know in the movie, I don't think
they just make him permanently 25.
Yeah.
Until the end.
I saw in one of when I was looking up fun facts, I saw it was portraying from 19 to 49,
maybe he was. If he was 2 years before. So in 1948, he was 19. He was born in 1930. Okay. So in 1948, he was about 18. So if it was 2 years before, he was 16 when he went to audition.
Yep. I did end up seeing that too. I don't know why they decided to age him up to 19, or maybe that was just typo.
They didn't state an age.
They didn't. So maybe that was just, somebody assuming
his age. But according to the dates that they give in the movie and his birth date, he was 18.
Right.
Well, 16 to 18 in this area.
Jamie Foxx is an attractive man, but he doesn't look 16, but whatever.
Gorgeous.
And I love the gentleman. I did not write his name down. I love the gentleman playing Quincy. He's so cute. Yeah. And he just seems like the sort of person you just want to hang out with.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen him in other things too.
I know I have.
Recognized him.
Yeah. That was part of my notes, that the cat spilled water all over, and I didn't rewrite.
That's okay.
So
that's cats.
I know that's cats.
That's another podcast reference. We totally stole that.
And that's cats. Thank you, Ellen and Joey.
Yeah.
Inside the club, right away, we have Warwick Davis as Oberon. He is the. I know. Much. I did not. And I forgot. It shoots him from behind, but you
immediately know him.
Yeah, it's exactly. That voice. Stature, everything. Oh shit, it's Warwick Davis. Of course, in my mind, he's the leprechaun from the Leprechaun horror movies,
which is probably the role he most hates.
Probably. And I apologize, Mr. Davis. You gave me nightmares as a child, but I still love you. And anyway, so he is emceeing, and the audience looks bored as fuck.
They do.
And we meet the owner, Marlene, and she's mad because Gossi never told her that Ray was blind. So she's, this isn't going to work. But Oberon tells her that 2 of their performers won't be able to show up. And, what are they going to do? So, all right, Ray, this is your audition. Get up there. He wasn't ready for this, so he's nervous. And Oberon gives him a joint. And I guess this is how he first started smoking marijuana? Yeah,
it said he started at 18.
Oh, okay.
The smoking marijuana thing.
And I love the way they do it, because he hands it to him and he takes a hit and he goes, "What? This isn't tobacco." And he says, "No, it's gonna calm you down. Don't worry." And about 30 seconds later, Marlene's like, "Okay, come on." He goes, "Yeah."
Yeah, it was perfect. Also, I don't know if I'll get to it later, but I'm going to mention here, and I'll cut this out if I mention it later. But I saw that this shift he's auditioning for this time is between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Oh, God.
It's the night shift.
Wow.
At this bar.
So that's why it was so empty.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wish they would have mentioned that, because it's a little different.
Right, because I just assumed it's not a very popular place.
No, from what I saw, this was the 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift.
I mean, that would explain it. Okay. Yeah. So Oberon introduces him, and his name is Ray Robinson, and they do have Sugar Ray Robinson at this time. So Oberon introduces him as Ray, don't call me Sugar Robinson, which I liked that.
I didn't catch that at first, but yeah, it's cute.
And when he gets up there, he's kind of fumbling. He knocks over the chair. He's kind of fumbling with the microphone, and the people in the audience are laughing at him. But once he starts to play, everything changes. Once he starts to play, everybody's happy. They get up and they start dancing, and Marlene is immediately impressed. Gossi comes up, what is he doing up there without me? And then he says, Ray is no good without me, which that's projection right there.
Obviously, this movie kind of cuts all over the place, so I'm going to just drop things in as possible, because they go forward in time, back in time, forward in time. Anyway, I'm going to mention this. There is this tiny scene, and I don't know if it's happened yet as we do the synopsis, but the sunglasses lore. It shows in the movie that the racist white guy gave him the glasses.
Yeah. I figured that wasn't true.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a very throwaway kind of mini scene. It doesn't really matter, but I did want to note that he was wearing sunglasses very shortly after he went blind as a child.
Which I wish they'd have done that. Because that's what I assumed, because that's an iconic part of Ray Charles is his sunglasses.
And I just sounded like a seal, but Anyway, I think it would have been better if someone from his village gave him the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Greenville, which I'll mention once we actually do another flashback more about Greenville, because that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
What else I'll mention, though, is that we're coming up to talking about this club owner, Marlene.
Oh, man.
I really didn't see anything in his history about this woman.
Okay, good.
Which I thought was so significant to put this character in there.
Yeah.
But she didn't exist.
Okay.
At least as far as I could see. Somebody can let me know if I'm wrong. But in the several sources that I went through talking about his life, I did not see this. The only thing I saw was that he first lost his virginity, was raped at the age of 12.
Oh my God. Well, no, I know what you mean.
He lost his virginity at 12 to a 20-year-old woman.
And that is rape.
Which I consider rape.
Holy crap.
And he says he was addicted to women at that point. So here it is. Charles stated in his 1978 autobiography, Brother Ray Charles's own story, that he became hooked on women after losing his virginity at 12 years old to a woman about 20. And I quote, "Cigarettes and smack, heroin, are the two truly addictive habits I've known. You might add women," he said. And he quoted, "My obsession centers on women. Did then when young and does now. I can't leave them alone." So yeah, a 12-year-old with a 20-year-old, according to him, which I wonder if they kind of, that woman, Marlene.
Maybe.
They also might have mixed it with, he was married to someone when he was 20. No, so he was 21. He was married to his first wife, Eileen Williams, for about a year. And that was before he met his second wife. But they didn't have any kids or anything. So I'm wondering if they're mashing together Eileen and this other woman and the 20-year-old into Marlene.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. But I just figured I'd mention that. All right. Continue on.
Marlene offers to put together a band, and they leave Charles out of the negotiating. So what they figure out is that Marlene's going to manage the band, getting 25%, and Gossi is going to get 10% plus double salary as the band leader. And Marlene tells Gossi that Ray can stay with her. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit, at first, I was like, damn, okay, Marlene, get it. But very quickly realized that this is exploitation, and she controls his money, she controls his career and his body. He's having to trade sexual favors for a home and band management, so not a good situation.
Also, I wish I still had that sexual energy. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Not in the exploitive way.
Not in the but she's like, come back to bed, I'm not done yet.
And he's dumping cold water on his back, he's exhausted, and I'm like, wow.
Well, and then I love later on, he's saying that he needs to get his own place, and Gossi is like, what are you complaining about? You got free rent. He says it damn sure isn't free.
I love that line. That was a very good line.
After a little while, they go on tour, and this is the first scene that we realize, he's going to have some trauma that's going to come up. Mm-hmm. So as he's packing, he puts his hands in his suitcase and it's full of water, and he's feeling around, and a child's arm kind of flops out into his hand. Scared the shit out of me. Scares him. He jumps back, but Quincy comes in and helps him finish up, and he tells him that he had been offered a job going on tour with another performer, but the performer's wife kicked him out because he was so young, telling him to come back when he starts shaving.
I mean, it's good.
Which, that's... it's kind of cute, but it's like, oh, poor Quincy.
Poor Quincy.
Yeah.
He kind of, I didn't do any side notes on Quincy, but from what I saw, he kind of has a lot of parallels with Ray Charles. I think I don't know if he was orphaned, but he left his family really early. He was traveling really early, dealt with the same kind of crap that Ray Charles did. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I did decide I'm going to get his autobiography. I'm going to see if they have that at the library.
Yeah,
soon.
it was fascinating.
Yeah. And so I might have to check out Quincy Jones as well. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So after their tour, when they're back at the rocking chair, a man comes up and introduces himself. He is Jack Lauderdale, and he is with Swing Time Records, and he wants to cut a record with Ray, who is immediately on board. But before they can really start discussing anything, Marlene and Gossie come up and they pull Jack Lauderdale away, and Marlene's, oh no, honey, you're fine. You go, blah, 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 whatever. We'll take care of this. And as they're leaving, Oberon comes out and invites him to go smoke, and Ray accuses him of distracting him while they do the business. But Oberon is honest with him, and he tells him, this isn't coming from me. This is them. This is the deal they worked out without you the very first night you were here. They're cutting you out of the profits. And he's also gotten the contact information for Mr. Lauderdale. So later that night, when Marlene gets home and Gossie is with her, Ray is inside. He's with Quincy. He's mentoring him on his musical. He's mentoring
his music.
I can't remember what instrument he was playing. Yeah, but anyways, he's mentoring him, and I love it because Ray's cooking chicken, and Marlene comes in and she turns on the lights and she's telling him, how many times have I told you not to cook in the dark? And he points out, what the hell does he need the lights for?
Yeah. You dumbass.
So he asks what happened with Mr. Lauderdale, and they're like, that's that whole thing, that deal is no good. We'd have to pay into it, and they don't have successful hits and blah blah blah. It's just no good. And he tells them, scratch a liar, find a thief. Scratch a liar, find a thief, yes. And tells them that he already spoke to Mr. Lauderdale. Mr. Lauderdale has offered him a $500 advance on his record. He's going to pay him 3 times what Marlene is paying him, and send him on tour with Lowell Fulson. And just a quick note, because I thought Mr. Fulson's name was Fulsome. And when I looked that up, I guess he had records under both spellings.
Really?
I don't know why, but I always thought it was Fulsome. But
well, apparently it was, but just... Yeah. Okay.
Tells them that he knows they've been lying to him and cutting him out of the profits. And he has Quincy go and grab his suitcase, and they leave. And as he's leaving, he remembers his mom, Aretha. She had been working with a woman. They were washing clothes, and they had agreed to split the profits evenly, but Aretha finds out that she's keeping extra money for herself, so she quits. And as they're leaving, she tells Ray and his younger brother George to, make sure that you get educated so you don't have to work for people like that. And that's when she says, scratch a liar, find a thief.
Which I also really like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here a little bit. So Ray Charles Robinson is from Greenville, Florida, which is still a small town in Florida. Still around, but as late as 2000, which was the latest statistics I could find, the median income was still around $20,000 a year. The median household income, $20,000 a year. There is a statue of Ray Charles in Greenville Park. There wasn't much else to say about it. It is a tiny town that is unfortunately still impoverished.
Oh, okay.
And also a note on Ray Charles's loss of sight, because I was really curious, is how does a child get glaucoma?
Yeah.
Because for most of us, glaucoma is something you deal with when you're older. But juvenile glaucoma is a thing. It's an eye condition that can cause vision loss, and its symptoms include light sensitivity, excessive tearing, and tearing, and cloudy or larger than average eyes. Some of that stuff we see in the movie, which we'll see later, is the kind of his eyes just running and watering.
Oh, okay. I just thought he was crying.
Nope, that's from the glaucoma. Oh, they did that really realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the causes are often genetic, involving abnormalities in the eye's drainage system that lead to increased pressure and damage to the optic nerve. Today, treatment typically requires early intervention, and options include medication and various surgical procedures like trabeculectomy to lower the eye's pressure. While juvenile glaucoma is often hereditary, it can help it can be caused by other things. And my cat is whining again.
It sounds like she's trying to talk.
Yep. Anyway, so that's a little bit on juvenile glaucoma and what Ray likely had. It's hard to say because it wasn't diagnosed when he was a child, because I was very fascinated by his mom and the portrayal of his mother, like the woman who played Aretha, Sharon Warren. Wow, just amazing. I felt her jump off the screen.
Yes, and she actually, this is only one of like 3 film roles.
Wow,
she's done a lot of stage work.
Okay, and you can tell that
you can see it, like she's beautiful. Every time
gorgeous.
She's on stage, every time she's on screen, I was staring at her because she's absolutely gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, and her presence. If you can say the cliche of like, she has presence.
Yes, and amazing actress.
Perfect for this role. Ray Charles Robinson was born on September 23rd, 1930 in Albany, Georgia. So he was born in Georgia, which is interesting because he has ties later to Georgia. He was raised in Greenville, Florida by his mother, Aretha, or Retha, in some sources, Robinson. I'll pause for a second to say the sources sometimes on Ray Charles's life are everywhere. It seems like, at least from his childhood and growing up, information kind of mixes around and is thrown around. So like, one of the sources says that Aretha's maiden name was Williams, but as I mentioned earlier, that was also Ray's first wife's last name, Eileen Williams. So I'm not sure about that. But she was a laundress, as is portrayed in the movie, and her own history was difficult. So she took the surname Robinson after being informally adopted by the Robinson family, who included Bailey, a man who worked with her father, and his wife, Mary Jane, after Aretha's own mother died and her father could not keep her. So tragically, it was Bailey who raped Aretha, and she became pregnant.
Oh, God.
Yep. Leaving her to leave Greenville and go to Albany, Georgia in the summer of 1930, where she had Ray Charles. And then she returned to Greenville, where she and Bailey's wife, who had lost her own son, shared in Charles's upbringing.
Oh, wow.
Ray Charles grew up enduring grinding poverty and the pervasive abuses of racism in Jim Crow South and all the segregation that came with it. And then his father left the family to go with another woman.
Wow.
So when
what a guy.
Ray mentions in the movie that his own father had 3 families, that's true.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Charles began to lose his sight around age 4 or 5 and then was completely blind by age 7. So you'll see in different sources where he lost his sight at 4. He lost his sight at 5, 6, 7. Like it was kind of happening through that time frame. But his mother was a strong influence who taught him to be fiercely independent, maybe to a fault, as we kind of see in the movie. And she had the supposed motto, never let nobody or nothing turn you into no cripple. And you're blind, not stupid. Although she used the word dumb.
I like that, though.
Yeah.
So now in LA, with Mr. Lauderdale, Ray, they decide to use his middle name, Charles, as opposed to Robinson because of Sugar Ray. So he's going to be Ray Charles, and Mr. Lauderdale introduces him to Lil Fulson, who he'll be going on tour with. They take off to go flirt with some women, and
it was very fat phobic, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got, yeah.
Yeah.
And while Ray is listening to the performer on stage, he flashes back to his childhood again, and we see that he and his brother are playing, and he hears music coming out of what looks like a general store. And he goes in and he sees a man playing who ends up teaching him to play piano. And I like the way they did this because they start playing the song In the Mood. And this is where we see he's learning jazz style because the gentleman he's playing the main part and the 3 notes he showed Ray basically like play that as you feel it. So right away he's getting he's being taught the style of jazz of, you play what you feel.
Yes. And this I can share. I don't have a lot on it, but it was the Red Kitchen.
Okay. I saw the word red. I'm
pretty sure it's the Red Kitchen. And that was an actual place that he went and did meet some jazz folks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I did see a note that the gentleman who taught him to play that was there, he ended up helping the family a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's something Pittman. Pittman. I think it was Charles Pittman.
Okay.
I think.
I know.
I knew I didn't have a lot of time on this, so I didn't like grab everything. But yes, he did help the family. They were able to stay with him while when Ray's mother couldn't afford rent and stuff. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And that's why we need a village.
Yep.
So he starts his tour and they are playing on what was called the Chitlin Circuit. He's going to be playing on the Chitlin Circuit, which was a network of venues across the U.S. that featured Black performers during segregation. And after one night after one performance, the band, they're talking to some of the women from the audience and they make plans to go out. And when Ray asks, like, hey, where you going? He's left behind because nobody wants to be responsible for him, which I think is really fucked up because they're going to leave him because they don't want to look after him. But then they seem to leave him by himself in a now empty club.
Yep.
Like, God damn.
Yeah.
And that's, unfortunately, seems like it's going to be the norm for quite a while. We get a montage of them performing and traveling, and he's kind of sidelined. And one of the scenes I thought was kind of funny, which again, unfortunately, he's left out, but we see the band and they're gambling on the bus. And one of the guys says that he's been shooting craps. He's been shooting craps since he was 12. And he tells the other band members, never shoot craps on a white lady's grave because it's bad luck. Which just made me crack up. And we see that on payday, the band manager, Wilbur, he's annoyed because he has to pay Ray in $1 bills. Mm-hmm. But Ray flashes back to when he was working with the White Country Band, and the racist manager tries to scam him by counting out singles as 5s, but thankfully one of the gentlemen calls him on it. Mm-hmm. But this is why he dealt in singles afterwards.
Yeah, I think I've heard, that was a continuous problem for blind people where they'd have to earmark their bills in a certain pattern so that they know exactly what they are, but they also it's a problem.
Yeah. Well,
you can't tell.
I know we had a gentleman, he ended up becoming a regular, but we had a gentleman when I was at Arby's. And the first time that I met him, when I gave him his change, I handed it back. I said, okay, here's the 10, press it in his hand. Here's the 5, press it in his hand. And here's, whatever, in dollar bills. And he ended up thanking me like, oh, thank you for telling me what everything is. But then he showed me how he folded everything.
Nice. Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yes. Is interesting. I think it's really cool the way that they, somebody who's got a disability, how they make the world work for them. But they shouldn't have to worry about that kind of shit.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like, with credit cards and stuff, I always thought would be useful that there used to be the raised numbers and names on credit cards. Now they don't do that anymore.
Yeah. So
I wonder how people do.
So at one point at one of the venues, Ray tries to go to the bathroom, but 2 of the band members, Fathead and Jimmy, they're in there, and it's not super obvious, but they're doing drugs. They're doing heroin, actually. And they tell him, you can't come in here. We're going to be a while. Go use the women's room. And they close the door on him. And you hear Fathead say, he don't know nothing about this, which obviously irritates him.
Yeah.
But when he turns to leave, he feels and he hears his feet splashing in water, and he reaches down, and while he's feeling around, he touches a child's foot.
Yeah.
And he jumps back and he yells. Fathead comes out to check on him, and Ray's, a pipe must have burst. Look at all this water. But Fathead doesn't see any, obviously, because it was a hallucination or a memory, and, thinks that he's just joking around, tells him to go. But back on the bus, one of the band members, Jeff, who ends up becoming very close with him, he finally asks Ray about himself. And this is the first time we're seeing anybody really reaching out to him. And he's asking about himself, and he asks him how he gets around so good without a cane or a dog. And Ray asks him, well, how do you get around without a cane and a dog? But, he tells him his ears have to be his eyes, so he wears hard-soled shoes, so the sound bounces off the walls. He can tell when there's a doorway. Mm-hmm. He's making these things work for him. And he tells him that he had to learn very fast growing up blind, and Jeff shares that he had to learn fast during the war, and he says that seeing that much death isn't natural, and this leads to Ray's next flashback, which, trigger warning, this is the child death scene, but we see his mother is doing laundry in the yard, but she's heading inside, and she tells Ray and his brother to, get cleaned up for dinner. But Ray and George are playing, and George ends up climbing up on the table where the wash basin is, and he's, let's go swimming. Let's go swimming in Mama's wash tub. Unfortunately, George slips backwards and he falls in, and he's not able to get himself out. And at first, Ray thinks that he's joking, and he's laughing and telling him to stop playing, but George keeps struggling. When Ray realizes that he's not joking, he freezes, which is exactly what a child would do.
Yes.
Adults would probably, it's exactly how a child would react.
Yeah.
And especially now that you've told me that he was 4, I assumed he was older. 1, you're not going to realize, and 2, what the hell are you going to do? You freeze up. Anyways, so Aretha comes out to get them inside, and, we do find out that he blames himself, which, again, what the hell would you expect a 4 or 5-year-old to do?
I mean, in the scene, you see where it comes from, and it's just sad on both sides. So obviously he didn't do anything, and I don't know if, this is not talked about, at least in the sources I saw, of his mom saying, why didn't you do anything? But
that's coming from a place of pain.
That's coming a place of pain and grief. Like, I can't blame the mom for I might do that myself, honestly, in that moment. Same. Not that it's right, it's just what you react with, right? As a human.
But you do realize later she does not blame him.
She does not. And she kind of shows that, like, there's another later scene where she's sending him off to school, and he kind of makes a comment of, like, what about George? I'll be good like George. Yeah. And she says it has nothing to do with George. So,
but Aretha, she comes out to get the children inside and sees Georgie's legs over the wash basin. And everybody, their neighbors, are all gathering around as she tries, she's taking him inside, trying to get him to breathe. And Ray, he's still, even as everybody's walking away, he is still just standing there completely frozen. And, as we said, trigger warning, this was a very, very upsetting scene. Back on the bus, they've made a stop. They're going to stop someplace to eat, and Fathead and Jimmy, they go off to a back washroom, and Ray, he's sick of being left out, so he just kind of bursts into the room and wants to know what they're doing. And we see, they're getting ready. They're going to shoot up with heroin, but Fathead, he tells Ray, you don't want any part of this. But Ray is, I want to do this. I want to try this. And Fathead does try to warn him, tries to talk him out of it, tries to get him, come with me, let's go get something to eat. But when Ray insists, Fathead says he's not going to have anything to do with this, and he leaves. But Jimmy takes his money and helps him shoot up for the first time. And after that when he first gets the injection, he flashes on his mom telling him that she isn't going to give up on him. And he begins to remember his brother's funeral and his mother falling on the casket quiet and crying, and he was being comforted by the older gentleman who was teaching him piano. I think you said his name was Mr. Pittman.
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember his first name, but I think Pittman. Yeah.
And we just see him, just the little boy playing young Ray. He was a fantastic
he was really
actor.
good.
Oh my God.
He really was.
We now skip ahead. It's about 9 months later, and this is skipping ahead in his childhood. I'm sorry. We skip ahead. I was like,
still in his childhood.
So we skip ahead in his childhood about 9 months, and this is when it's showing that he's first beginning to lose his sight, and as it's progressing, and as Birdie told us, it was causing his eyes to water. So the scenes where his eyes were watering, I thought he was crying, and there's the one scene where he's on the porch and he's banging a little drum and pouring down rain and his eyes are watering, and oh, that broke my heart. Finally, his mother just flats out telling him, or his mother just kind of flats out tells him, you're going blind and there's nothing we can do about this. The doctors can't help us, so we're going to have to do this ourselves. She tells him that she's going to teach him something once, help him the second time if he makes a mistake, but after that, the third time he's on his own because the world is not going to help him, and she needs to teach him how to take care of himself.
Yes.
And she does. She starts teaching him how to maneuver himself throughout the house. So we see he's at a performance and the audience is just absolutely silent watching him. But the manager, Wilbur, he's bitching about him, basically saying he's not going to amount to anything. And after the show, Ray's flirting with a woman. And he tells her that he had his eye on her all night.
Yeah, that was cute.
But he's kind of squeezing her hand and her wrist and up her arms, and Fathead is telling the other guys that, he does that because he thinks that he can feel how attractive they are by their wrists. Mm-hmm.
Which means how fat they are.
Yeah, and you see that at a certain point later. But Ray walks off with her, and I like the asshole manager. He comes out and he's like, where's that woman in the yellow dress? Well, Ray just took her, so yep. Too bad. Now, on payday, when Wilbur is counting out his money, he didn't get all singles, so when he gives it to Ray, Ray thinks that he's shorting him, and Wilbur kind of takes a crack at his record sales, and Ray just jumps on him and starts whooping his ass, which was great. Yeah. But we do find out when the other guys jump in to pull Ray off of him, we do find out it was $50. It just wasn't in singles. And Lowell tells him that he's going to handle his money from now on, but Ray's done. He quits. So he goes to Harlem.
So yeah, before we get there, I'm going to finish out a bit of Ray's childhood and kind of how we got to this point. We know that Ray Charles's mother died in the spring of 1945 when he was 14. He had already gone off to school, which actually he went to the St. Augustine School for the Deaf and Blind, which kind of has its own interesting history, and they really, honestly, they don't even gloss over it. They don't even talk about his time at the school, which I feel was a bit of a failure because that is where he learned to read music in Braille. That is where he learned how to play a lot of other instruments. Yes, he learned how to play the piano in Greenville, but it was at the school where he really learned most of his skills.
Okay.
So I'm actually, since there's a lot to talk about there, I'm going to talk about that in the outtake episode. But after his mother's death in 1945, that's when he dropped out of school and started performing professionally. Obviously, he had to take care of himself. They don't say why, like they kind of made it because she died, but honestly, I'm like, well, what was he going to do?
Yeah, good point.
And he started modeling his style after artists like Nat King Cole, which they mention, and Charles Brown. Obviously, he drifted through Florida and joined that white band, and then moved to Seattle, Washington, and formed the McSun Trio, which was where we met Oberon and the weird Marlene lady. And yes, to avoid confusion with the popular boxer Sugar Ray Robinson, he called himself Ray Charles. And he made a lot of hits during this time. Well, not just him, the band. Confession Blues, Baby Let Me Hold Your Hand, Kiss-A-Me Baby, which I think I've heard Baby Let Me Hold Your Hand before.
I know Kiss-A-Me Baby. I love that song.
Yeah, okay, cool. So that was in 1952. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, this was all between when he was 16 and 20 years old and still living in pretty hard poverty. during this time. Seattle actually was a big music scene during that time. And I think for some people still is. It's like, it's kind of an understated place. Like you go to Hollywood for movies, you go to Seattle for music, apparently.
Yeah,
so,
I know that's where grunge music
grunge music came from. Yeah. And as we mentioned earlier, this is where he met 15-year-old Quincy Jones. Even while working at the Rockin' Chair, Charles also arranged songs for other artists, including Cole Porter's Ghost of a Chance and Dizzy Gillespie's Eminon.
Oh my God.
They kind of make that throwaway line about, do you know the Gillespie what Eminon is? And he says no name. Yeah, so that was kind of...
wow,
yeah.
That's so cool.
So after the success of his first two singles, Charles, that's when he moved to Los Angeles in 1950 and spent the next few years touring with Lowell Fulson and Fulson's musical director. And now we can move on.
So now we are in Harlem. It's now 1952, and Ray is in his room, and he's listening to gospel music on his record player, and he is reading a Bible in Braille. But a man comes to him, and he wants to speak with him. His name is Ahmet Ertegun, and he is with Atlantic Records, and they have acquired Ray's record from Swing Time when Lauderdale was selling contracts, and Ahmet chose Ray's because he was a fan.
And just a clarification, Swing Time Records closed. Like, Atlantic Records bought them out. It wasn't just like a switch. They were done.
Yeah. And later on, he'll meet a guy named Jerry, who's going to be Ahmet's partner, and they're going to be his producers. But anyways, he wants to make a record with Ray, and Ray's, tells him that he's got a gentleman offering him 7 cents a record, and can you match that? And Ahmet's honest with him and says, no, and that guy's not going to be able to deliver on it, but I'll give you 5 cents a record. And Ray appreciates his honesty, so that's why they end up working together. When they're in the studio recording, Ray's doing what he's always done, and he is emulating other artists that he knows audiences love. But the gentlemen who are in the recording booth, they're saying, well, he's just sounding like Nat King Cole and Charles Brown. So Ahmet tells him, we signed you because we want to hear you. So, play us what Ray would play. And, Ray points out that's how he's always made his living, by playing what he knows people like. But Ahmet suggests a different song, and it's one that he's written himself, and it is called The Mess Around. And very quickly, Ray turns this into a viable song, and everybody's excited. And during a promotional tour, but he's in Houston, he's at a radio show promoting the album. He tells the radio host that he's a big fan of a local group called the Cecil Shaw Singers. And during the break, Dellaby Antwine, who is a member of the Cecil Shaw group, calls to talk to Ray, and they end up meeting for lunch. And he mentions that he heard her singing on an album, and she asks, how did you pick my voice out? And he says his ears have to be his eyes, and he points out, he says, like that hummingbird out the window.
That was really cool.
Yeah, and I'll be damned, there's a goddamn hummingbird out that window. And I love that he says, oh, did you hear that? No, what? My heart just skipped a beat.
Yeah, that was cute.
That would have totally worked on me.
Oh, absolutely. He was smooth.
Mm-hmm. He asks Della, which he's going to start calling her B, so that's how I'll refer to her.
Yeah.
He asks B what she thought of his record, and she tries to be diplomatic, and it was nice, but he kind of presses her on it, and she admits that it sounds like other records I've heard, and I'm wondering what you yourself would sound like. So as later on, as he's walking her home, and he's telling her about his history, telling her about his mother, and when he's talking about his career, he tells her that because he's always had to rely on his ears, he ended up becoming great at mimicking people.
Yeah.
And that's helped him in his performance, because he can play what he knows for a fact people like. To play his own style and music would be taking a risk. But she points out that it's a risk probably worth taking. When they split up for the day, he can't come in because she's living with a preacher and his family, and the missus does not approve of male visitors. Mm-hmm. And I only add that in for a scene later.
Yep.
But he's going to New York for 2 weeks, and he tells her when I get back, we'll take this as slow as you want, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'll talk a little bit about this. So during this time, he joins Atlantic Records. This is where he really starts taking off. So around this time, this is when he met his second wife, quote unquote, Della Beatrice Howard Robinson, who was called B by Charles, in Texas about 1954. So I think this was like kind of when he was on tour. So it seems like this is all happening in the same area, but it's not. It's kind of jumping around. But they married the following year on April 5th, 1955. And their first child was Ray Charles Robinson Jr., born that same year, like we'll see later. However, this was not Ray's first child.
Oh.
Yeah. So the first of Charles's children, and there are many of them, there are 12
I did see that.
kids.
I did see that. I saw a note about that at one point, throwing a luncheon for all his children to come to, which is like, oh my God.
With 10 different mothers.
And I could be wrong about this, but from the little bit that I saw, he was a loving father to all of them.
Yeah, he was a dad for sure, but there's circumstances and everything else. They don't seem to disregard him. And I want to talk about the children because it's kind of just fascinating, but given the time, I'm going to put that in my outtakes episode and deep dive into them because some of his children are just, I don't know if as fascinating as he is, but the whole circumstances of that are pretty fascinating. However, his first child was Evelyn Robinson, born in 1949, so a few years before this, to Louise Mitchell or Flowers in other sources. So it's either Louise Mitchell or Louise Flowers. There's not a lot on a lot of the mothers, honestly, sadly. I've tried to find, in the time I had for research, I tried to find extra stuff on the moms, but there's not much out there. But supposedly the couple was dating for a year before they wound up separating, and Evelyn was born in Tampa, Florida, where her father recorded his first song, I Found My Baby There.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and yes, around the same time in 1952, Atlantic Records bought his first contract, and that was when he started combining gospel, jazz, and the blues, and created his signature sound, which is what we're seeing developing in the movie. And that laid the foundation for soul music, which he kind of was part of pioneering. His first small hit for Atlantic was Mess Around, like we saw, and followed by I've Got a Woman and Hallelujah, I Love Her So, which was about B. And so we'll continue on from there, but yeah, I just wanted to start a little bit on, you'll start hearing about these babies being born. So
in New York, Ray tells Jerry and Ahmet that he wants to start a band and go on tour. And they're kind of hesitant about this at first, but what they finally agree to is another performer, Ruth Brown, is also going on tour, and they were going to put a band together for her. So they will do this, add Ray Charles to this, and he's basically, you're going to have to work for it. So he agrees he's going to be, I'll be opening act, I'll arrange music, I'll do whatever. He's going to do all the extra work that needs to be done. And when he gets back to Houston and he goes to see B, she opens the door and he goes, it's been 2 weeks. And she goes, it's been 3. And then she starts kissing him and pulling him inside. And so he finds out, well, where's the preacher and his wife? Oh, they're in Dallas till Monday. And she just pulls him inside and he goes, well, hallelujah.
And she's looking around,
making sure no neighbors are watching.
Checking around. Oh, that was so funny.
Yeah, I loved it.
So funny.
So after they have made love, while they're in the afterglow, he shares that he has only had 2 people in his life that he can trust, and that's Jeff and Fathead, but now he has her as well. And he asks that she always tell him the truth like she did before. And he ends up playing a song for her that he's written for her, but and this would be I've Got a Woman, but she ends up getting upset because she realizes that he's based the instrumental off of gospel.
Yeah.
And she's telling him that it's not natural, but he points out, I wrote this about my love for you, and what can be more natural than that? And she does end up conceding.
I find this interesting. I didn't know, I've heard, obviously, in 2025 and in our youth, we've heard people use like the intonations of gospel music and musical notes. Like that actually becomes a common thing. I mean, like eventually I'm sure we'll do Bohemian Rhapsody and Queen, talk about Queen, and they used a lot of gospel stuff in rock, right? So I found this interesting. I had never thought of that being like taboo to use gospel music in secular music.
I didn't either.
And I don't think it's even really a big deal now, except maybe if you're an evangelical or something. And sorry if you are, like, in our secular world, I didn't even think of that being a thing. Right. So I found that interesting.
While in Dallas, Ahmet and Jerry have to go break the bad news to him that Ruth Brown can no longer go on tour because she's gotten pregnant. And so she can't go, and the tour's off. So
can't travel while pregnant.
All right. So they go to tell him, but when they walk in, he's performing I've Got a Woman, and they realize, like, okay, we've got to get this on record. We have to record this song. And they do end up setting him up to go on tour still. But Ahmet takes Ray to meet a man with the Shaw Agency, and I don't know his name. I did not catch that, so I'm just going to call him the Shaw guy, Shaw. I forget the actor's first name, but his last name is Krumholtz. And I had such a huge crush on him. Oh. And seeing him with the slicked back hair and the goatee was like, okay, all right. But he's going to be their promoter and their booker, and he ends up getting him on a 10-city run with other performers. But before he goes on tour, he heads back to Houston to marry B, who wants to start a family. But we also see that he is still using heroin. Yeah. Just he's hiding it from B.
Which is a total hypocrisy, dude, that you're like asking her to be super honest. And then yeah.
So during a show, when he is playing this newer, gospel-inspired music, a couple comes in and they're protesting that he's changing gospel music. And they tell him that he's going to go to hell. And one of the band members, he just up and quits. Like he nopes out. He's gone. And he's going to have to add a new player, but this also inspires him to find a female voice who is trained specifically in gospel singing. Now, before he goes to start this tour, B is getting him packed up, and we see that she's pregnant. He invites her to come on tour and be the female voice, but, she declines. She's pregnant. She's going to stay home. And when she goes to get his shaving kit, she finds his heroin paraphernalia. And she demands that he stops, but he gets angry and he refuses and basically says, well, I hope you're still here when I get home. And then he just walks out.
Yeah. So we're starting to see like the complicated nature or the abusive side of, call it what it is, of Ray Charles.
Yeah.
So,
and we see he's auditioning a woman, and this is going to be Marianne, who does end up joining the band and also begins an affair with Ray.
Real quick.
Very quick. And she has the voice that he's looking for, and she is comfortable with his style and what he's going to be doing. So she's on board. But while he's on tour, B gives birth to their first son, and this is Ray Jr. And while he's there to meet him and see B basically, she lets him know that she knows he's having affairs. She knows he's still using heroin. And she pretty much leaves it up to, you do what you need to do or you're going to do when you're out on the road, but you do not bring this home. When you are home, this is not who you are.
Very gracious of her.
Very gracious.
Very gracious.
Later on, I had a note like, God, this woman's an angel.
I mean, totally. Complete saint. And I do give it to Ray, like, okay, I don't agree with him, but he does try to keep that promise, at least for many years.
He does.
For many years, he tries to separate his road life from his home life.
Yeah.
So,
which, some couples have open relationships. It's not something I'd be able to do, but
the thing I don't agree with is that he didn't establish this before he started the shit.
Right.
If he had established before starting the shit that this is the way it's going to be, and can we agree on this? Then okay. But the fact that she had to concede after she's married to you and has your child, like, okay.
While he's holding his new son, he has a flashback. This is where he trips and falls. So do you want to
tell it first?
Okay. So as he's holding his son, he has a flashback to shortly after he lost his sight, and he's running into the house and he trips and falls and he starts crying for his mother. And this is one of the scenes where, not Aretha, I'm sorry, Sharon Warren just, God, this woman is amazing.
Her face is amazing. Like the way she uses her face.
Yes. And she steps forward to help him, but she stops herself and she holds back, letting him basically take care of himself. And you can see in her face that she wants so badly to comfort and help him, but she also knows he needs to figure out how to do these things for himself. He cries for her for a little bit, and he eventually gets up and wipes his eyes, and he's listening, and he hears, the cows in the yard, the kettle on the stove, the fireplace, and he is walking around, and he's just trying to kind of orientate himself with the room, and she's watching him, watching his face. So he feels the fireplace, he's feeling himself around, and then he hears a cricket, and
that was cute.
Yeah. And he uses his ears and his hands to catch this cricket, and it was so cute. He's holding it up to his ear and smiling. And then he says, I hear you too, Mama. You're right over there. And she goes to hug him and she's crying. And when he asks why, she says it's because she's happy.
This scene was like the mom guilt of all mothers.
Yeah, were you crying?
Oh, I at least definitely teared up. So, as mothers, like, you don't know this till you have children or taking care of children on a full-time basis. You don't have to be a mother, but if you're caring for children a lot and learning when to hold back, because your instinct is to constantly run to them and help them. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the hardest things to learn as an individual with a child. Any child is letting them figure it out even when they're upset.
Yeah.
Some days it's easier than others when, they're bringing you the Legos and put this together. And I'm like, you know how to put them together. Come on. But, right. Other days when they're having trouble opening their juice, or they're having trouble, and this is with children without disability, or at least without physical disabilities. And just like holding back, literally clenching your fists because it's like, don't do it. Don't do it for them.
Yeah.
So this scene meant a lot now. Like when I originally saw this scene, it was something. I thought it was just, oh, look at him learning and hearing all this cool stuff. Now I'm on the other side watching this, 20 years later, excuse me, as a parent, and oh God, that hurts. So that's all I really wanted to say about that scene.
Yeah, but, and her performance is fantastic in all of her scenes, but this especially just really, really gets you. Mm-hmm. We do get a short little montage of him taking care of his son, and that is, I love when they're giving him the bath and they're like playing with his toes. That was so cute.
So cute.
During all of this, Marianne is trying to convince him to move in with her, or at the very least give her a solo. So he goes back to New York and he wants to do a recording, but he needs a female trio to harmonize. And they bring in a group called the Cookies. And we meet Margie. She's one of the singers. I'm thinking she's the group leader, but I'm not. Okay.
She's a founding member.
Okay. And the character Marjorie is played by Regina King. And I wanted to not like Margie, but
you don't want to like her, but you like her.
Yeah,
absolutely, yes.
And I know it's because of Regina King.
Oh yeah, but it's also like this. She's very earnest and very strong.
Yes,
and I actually have later on. I have a little deep dive on her.
Okay.
Because it's sad.
Oh. He asks them if they would like to join and go on the road with him. And Margie, she kind of steps forward and she negotiates a higher pay.
Yeah.
And it's a neat little scene. She's just basically like, you're not going to tell us. This is what we're going to do. So they do agree, and they now changed their name from the Cookies to the Raylettes.
Which is...
I mean, yeah, that's...
the narcissism of it all, but that's
the
okay.
narcissism, but that was also very much a 50s thing.
Oh, it was very much, yes.
Yeah.
And it was all true. They were formerly known as the Cookies. They were their own group. They tried to do some records. Of course, they didn't take off, but then they joined Ray's band, and Margie Hendricks was a founding member.
And we see Marianne. So back home, Marianne is not happy about the Raylettes joining, especially about Marjorie. And he has given her a solo, but I like that they set this all to the song, What Kind of Man Are You? So she's singing the song, but we're also seeing that Margie is kind of taking her place.
Yes.
And she and Ray are starting to have an affair. And at one point, when he buys a car for the group, he also buys her own car. And eventually Marianne decides she's done and she packs up. But I love that before she goes, she throws a giant fucking piece of cement into the windshield of the car before she leaves.
Love it. I mean,
I get it.
I don't blame her.
I don't endorse it.
I don't endorse it.
I endorse it. But yeah, I get it.
He started really gaining a lot of success once he hired the Raylettes in 1958, and then when he releases What I Say, which is a scene coming up here.
And sometime down the road, Margie and they have a relationship now, and Fathead has brought him some heroin. Yeah. But they end up getting in an argument, and he leaves, and Ray asks Margie for help. So he had dropped it, and while he was on the floor trying to find it, he feels, I believe he thinks that there's water there, but he gets a flash of his mother telling him that, there ain't nothing free in this world but Jesus. Right. And scares the crap out of him. He calls Margie in to come help him, and she says that she will help if she gets to try it too. And he ends up getting very angry, but he's trying to warn her, don't start this.
Basically the way he was warned too, which is like,
yeah,
exactly.
She's determined, and she has this idea that it's somehow going to bring them closer. Yeah. And I guess make her understand his music more, I think. Something
like that. She doesn't start right now. We will find out later. They don't make it clear in the movie, so I'll just say she does start heroin later. I mean, they kind of do in the end, but...
We see them recording. I didn't write down what song it was, but... one of those moments like, oh my God, this Regina can sing. Mm-hmm, yeah. She has an amazing voice. I did not know that. Holy shit. But the problem is that now his producers and the production team, they can all obviously see that he is deep in addiction. Yes. And one night during a show, he finishes early, but his contract says he still has another 20 minutes, and the club manager is demanding those 20 minutes. So he gets back up and he improvs, and they come up with the song What I Say.
And this is true.
That is true.
He spontaneously came up with this song during a performance. Not maybe exactly the way this happened.
That is so freaking cool.
But that's what I have in my notes, is that What I'd Say was spontaneously written during a performance.
That is so freaking awesome. And everybody loves it, and this ends up becoming one of his next big hits. Ahmet tries to talk to Ray about his addiction, but Ray, he still thinks he's got it under control, so he just kind of brushes it off. And... he's getting so big now that he's no longer on the Chitlin circuit, and he starts booking a wider range of venues. And this also means he no longer has to play strictly to Black venues. He can now play to white audience venues. Mr. Shaw, we see a scene where he's booking him, and he demands, Ray needs top billing and $1,000 per show. So he's getting very successful. He ends up moving his family to LA, and he's believing that this is going to be a better environment for his children outside of, Jim Crow South, which I am sure was absolutely true. But we see Ray Jr. and now their second son, David, and they're moving into their new home. But Margie calls him, and she has followed him to LA.
Yeah.
which not cool. Didn't talk to him about it, just showed up. And she wants him to leave the family and come be with her in her hotel room. She's got everything set up for you guys, but he makes it clear that his family comes first, and they are first. He's not leaving to be with her, and
that was what he promised.
Yeah.
So.
But this kind of starts the fire for Margie beginning to resent him, and I'm assuming it was probably about this time that she started using, again, as Birdie said, they don't make that clear.
They make it clear she started drinking, which is true.
Yep. So. Even during recording sessions, and he actually, one of the sessions while she's drinking, he ends up kicking her out.
Yep.
And the studio has this new 8-track technology, and he's able to use that to sing his part and the 3 female parts to harmonize himself.
Which is amazing. I didn't really see something specific on this, but I believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I bet he did.
I did mean to look that up, and I completely forgot.
I forgot to, but I'm going with it because, like, I believe it.
Yeah.
So
we see that Shaw is now getting him $5,000 per show, and he's also been shopping around for a new production team because his contract with Atlantic is almost up, and he wants to go with ABC Paramount. And Ray is annoyed about this at first, but then finds out that they're offering a $50,000 advance each year for 3 years. He will produce his own records, and he gets 75%.
it was a lot of money back then.
Yes.
So much money.
And in, I believe, a musical first, Ray demands that he also gets ownership of all of his masters.
Yes.
And they agree to it. And that was like history making.
I think it was. So his career started really soaring now. It was, this was all true. It was an unprecedented contract that gave him high royalties and eventual ownership of his master tapes. This also brought, which we'll see soon, a new era that he hit the pop charts with Georgia on My Mind in 1960, and that won him 4 Grammy Awards. And he followed that up with Hit the Road Jack, which is absolutely one of my favorite songs, and we'll learn more about that. So there's a lot going on right now. He's really hitting his stride at this point. And also, look at them white kids dancing. That's all I had in my notes, because they show these white young people on the beach with the radio and stuff.
And the disapproving racist guy in the background.
Yup. And all I got was look at them white kids dancing. So.
And so he's told Jerry and Ahmet, and Jerry is angry. Ahmet seems sad, but he's still happy for him.
He's very sad. He's very disappointed.
Yeah.
But...
And now that he gets to decide what he's doing musically, he gets to make his own call. He brings in an orchestra and a choir, and this is when they record Georgia on My Mind.
Right.
And I know Margie's pissed at this,
yes.
But anyways, at a jazz festival, he runs into Quincy Jones, who tells him he just got back from Paris and he no longer performs in the South, any place with Jim Crow laws.
Yep.
And Ray's still open to them because it's work. And for now, he's still open to doing that. Later on at the hotel, Margie tells Ray that she's pregnant, and he immediately tells her to terminate the pregnancy, refuses, and tells him she wants him to leave be for her, but he refuses to do so. And he again tries to push an abortion. She again refuses. She tells him, this is it. We're done. From now on, it's strictly business. While she's telling him off, he's sitting at his piano and he starts writing Hit the Road Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how, I don't know if this is true. But
he tells her, yeah, keep that anger.
Yeah, keep the anger. I love this scene though. It sticks with me.
Right. And it's it's kind of comedic, but at the same time, if you're mid breakup with somebody and that son of a bitch sits down and starts writing a song, I would be pissed.
Oh, she was, but also that's creatives for you.
Yeah.
That's creatives. Freaking Ray, Genghis Khan. So yeah, Hit the Road Jack. So 1960. During all of this, with his hit records and his songs and his new ABC records and, you know, all this going on and Margie getting pregnant, she has her son, Charles Wayne, in 1960, 1961. I think it's 1960, like right around Hit the Road Jack. Also, he managed to have his third son by his wife, Robert, in 1960, followed by a daughter with singer Mae Mosley Lyles named Renee in 1961, followed by another daughter, Sheila Ray, by Sandra Jean Betts, all in between 1959 and 1964. Busy guy.
Busy boy.
So, like, yeah, we're only, like, in this movie, we only talk about, like, Margie, there's a little bit with Marianne Fisher, and then his wife, and, you know, they mention these other women, but they were there, like...
Yeah.
Oh, he had a wife, a mistress, and lots of girlfriends.
Kind of had a Henry VIII thing going on.
Henry VIII thing going on, Genghis Khan thing with the prolific children.
So Margie must have stuck around a little bit longer because they tell us that their record is a hit, and because of its success, because she is on the record, now is her time to strike out on her own and pursue her own career.
Yeah, she specifically sticks around till 1964, according to most sources, until they got into a big fight in Europe when he's touring Europe because of her drunkenness, basically, although hypocrisy abounds.
Hypocrisy, that name is Ray.
Yeah, they get into a big fight. She leaves. They send her back to the United States, and I think that's when she went. Unfortunately, I wish it was as pretty as her packing up with her nice hairdo and suit and walking out on him while he was the one high on the couch. That's not exactly how it happened.
Okay. And well, while she's leaving, he's trying to tell her to stay. But as Birdie said, he is high, and he ends up calling her B. And that just ruined. And she... Nope, that was it. That was the last straw. So for the movie, that was the last straw.
Again, don't blame her.
Yeah. After she leaves Ray, he's still laying there, and he flashes back to when he was a child, and he had to leave for Florida to go to the school for the deaf and blind. And this is when he's telling her he wants to stay, and he promises he'll be good like George. And this is when she tells him, you know, this is nothing to do with George. This is what's good for you. And she tells him, like, I've done all that I can for you. This school can help you go further. And she wants him to be educated and successful. She does not want him to live in poverty and live hand to mouth like she's had to. She's doing this because she loves him.
Yeah.
And that was another very hard scene to watch. But she makes him promise that he is going to make her proud. He's never going to let anyone make him a cripple or a charity case, and he will stand on his own 2 feet. Next, they go to Georgia. When they arrive at the venue, there's an anti-segregation protest. And while he's being led to the door, one of the young men in the group comes forward, and he's telling him, you know, you're playing to a segregated crowd, only white people on the dance floor and all the black people are up in the balcony. And he's, well, you know, that's just the way it is. That's Georgia. There's nothing I can do about that. And the young man is trying to, you know, convince him, like, we need you to stand up for this. And I don't know how it happened in real life, but at least in the movie, at first he's like, you know, there's nothing that I can do. And the venue performer tells the young man to get out of there. He makes a racist comment, and he tells him to take the trash, which he's referring to the other protesters. So again, still racist. And that nothing's ever going to change. And that flips the switch, and Ray turns around. He's not going to perform. He's leaving. Yep. And even when the guy is telling him that he's going to sue him, he's like, well, you got to do what you got to do. And
yeah, I love you got to do what you got to do.
Yep. And he leaves. And the guy from the Shaw agency, he's trying to convince him to walk back on it and, you know, just go back, perform, make up the show, and we can just brush this out. It'll be fine. But he tells him he's never going to perform in segregated venues ever again. He will never perform in a Jim Crow setting again. And then we find out that Georgia, the state of Georgia, has banned him from performing.
Yeah, so this was interesting, mostly on point. So on March 15th, 1961, shortly after the release of Georgia on My Mind, he was in Albany, Georgia, and he was scheduled to perform at a dance at Bell Auditorium, but he canceled the show after learning from the student president of Payne College, who sent him a letter, and the students there, that the larger auditorium dance floor was restricted to whites, while blacks would be obliged to sit in the music hall balcony. So Ray Charles left town immediately after letting the public know why he would not be performing. But the promoter did go on to sue Charles for breach of contract, and Charles was fined $757 in the Fulton County Superior Court in Atlanta on June 14th, 1962. So I was a little unclear on whether he was banned or not from Georgia, because the following year he went on to perform at a desegregated Bell Auditorium concert with his backup singers, the Raylettes, in 1963. And apparently this was depicted like kids were dancing on the stage. But, you know, we do see later that Georgia does apologize in 1979. We'll get there. I am also going to note that he did support the American Civil Rights Movement and even monetarily supported Martin Luther King Jr. in the 60s. But he was also criticized for performing at the Sun City Resort in South Africa in 1981 during an international boycott protesting the country's apartheid policy. He later defended his choice of performing there, insisting that the audience of black and white fans did integrate while he was there. So he's a complicated man.
Yeah.
That's all I keep saying is he's a complicated man.
And the show that Birdie was mentioning, where both white and black audience members get up on stage and dance. So you see the police, they're trying to get everybody off stage and they're pissed off about this whole thing. And later on, when he's in his hotel room, there's a knock at the door, and who the person claims to be Western Union and that he has to sign for a telegram. But it's the police. They barge in, they arrest him, and this is an absolutely silent room. And they said, oh, we got a complaint of loud music. Mm-hmm. So they arrest him. They bring him down to the jail, and they're making it very clear that this is about race. One of the officers tells him that, and I'm sorry, quote, your jungle music is poisoning our kids' minds. So very obvious what this is actually about. After they tell him that they're going to charge him with possession because they found the heroin and the materials, they have it all sitting out on the table, and they invite the press in to start taking photos and trying to interview him. And oh God, and I hate it because you can see the officers in the back with this smug fucking smiles. Mm-hmm. And back home, and I can't quite tell. I think B is pregnant, so I'm guessing this would be with their third child. Yes. Okay. B again asks him to stop. And she wants him to stop for the children because, you know, do you want them to do this someday? And this is one of the scenes where he kind of gaslights her, and it's like, you know, basically, you know, but I'm blind, I need this. But Shaw calls to tell him that ABC got the charges dropped because the police didn't have a warrant, and you know, it's just kind of like, oh, well, I'm out of trouble, so everything's fine. But Ray has now decided that he wants to do country music, which ABC tries to talk him out of, but he gets to choose what he's doing, so tough luck. And he starts a show playing country, but everybody in the audience is yelling out suggestions, wanting to hear his previous hits. And the venue director, Joe Adams, he does something with the lights so that it soothes the crowd and draws the attention just to Ray. Everybody calms down, and Ray was very impressed by his skill and ends up bringing him on as his own personal MC. They begin to, at this point, they're even touring internationally. And Joe helps them find a bigger house, and it's got a custom-built fireplace, and he has his own recording studio with offices for both Ray and Joe, but Jeff is left out.
Yeah, that was like, oof.
Yeah. Now, at a party in their new home, this is when Ray gets a call, and he finds out that Margie has died of an overdose. Yeah. And B asks, you know, well, what about her son? And Ray didn't realize that she knew, but she knows his name, his date of birth, where he was born. return. And he says, well, he'll be with his aunt. He's going to be with Margie's sister. And B, saint that she is, says, well, I'll start sending them money. And he tells her that he's already been doing this. He sends money every month. And I think the only reason she's upset is because all of it was hidden from her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he ends up breaking down.
Yeah. Just so I can do the full story, I'm going to move her story to my outtakes episode. But real quick is that they moved her death up several years. She actually passed away in 1973, not 1963, as portrayed in the movie. Her son was 14 at the time, not 3. So very different setup there. If I feel bad for anyone in this entire movie, it's Margie Hendricks. It was not good. I'll do her full story justice in the outtakes episode.
During what I believe is a rehearsal, Joe Adams, he gets into an argument with Fathead and then Jeff, and they take the argument to Ray, but he ends up siding with Joe, and he accuses Jeff of theft. And I guess he's opening his own bowling alley, but he tells him, no, I got a small business loan. I'm not stealing from you. But he seems to have evidence that Jeff had side deals with promoters. So he was making money on the side that he was keeping Ray out of, and that's what ended their relationship in the movie.
This is all very gray and not very clear in the sources. The most I've seen is that, yes, Jeff Brown and Ray Charles did have a falling out. Jeff Brown had been his kind of manager for 15 years at this point, which is not an insignificant amount of time. And yeah, it had something to do with money, maybe stealing. I couldn't find a lot on Jeff Brown. Also, like, a lot of these people, probably because, this is Black history, it's just really swept under the rug on a lot of ways, unfortunately. But yes, Joe Adams officially takes over at this time, and not for nothing, Joe Adams is his manager for 40 years after this. Okay. So... But Joe Adams is also problematic. The way they portray Joe Adams as being this kind of shifty person, I don't think it's totally out of the blue. Like, yes, he does manage Ray Charles's estate for 40 years, but he definitely causes a lot of problems in his own way, which I'll talk about when it comes to the children, because he basically screws his children out of a lot of stuff.
And we get kind of a quick scene of Ray Jr. telling him that he's made his school's all-star team, and Ray's like, oh, I can't be there, but I'll buy you guys some uniforms.
Yeah, it's so typical rich dad shit.
Yeah. So they go on tour to Montreal, and when they come back, the custom officials are waiting for them, and they say they're here to search them and the plane, and they find what looks to be a bottle of pills, or maybe it's heroin, I'm not sure.
Looks like pills. So.
Yeah, in Ray's overcoat. So now he has a federal charge for possession.
Yeah.
And ABC can't really do much for this. Nope. While he's at home waiting to go to trial, B tells him that she's done and he wants to continue to use, and she tells him that if he leaves to go use heroin, she's taking the boys and she's leaving. She is done with all this shit. She tells him that she cares about him, but she knows that he doesn't really love her or the children because his music comes first. So she points out, if you get sent to prison, they're going to take your music away from you and you will have lost everything. And this does end up getting him to go into rehab, and he goes cold turkey. He refuses the medication that can assist with withdrawal, which if you need
it's definitely stemming from his must be absolutely independent and I'm doing everything on my own. It was the good and bad that came from his mom.
Yeah. If somebody's going through a withdrawal, and you can go to the hospital and they will help you through the detox, and it can be dangerous.
Yes.
But even aside from that, don't white knuckle your way through. If you need help, get the help.
No, because you're more easily to fail if you have to white knuckle your way through, especially afterwards. Yeah. They even have medication now for alcoholism. So it's like, take it.
Take the assistance. That's what it's there for. And he's refusing to use medication, and he's refusing needles. So when they need to give him fluids, they have to restrain him.
Yeah.
And the scenes of his detox they're upsetting, but amazingly done. And he's having these flashbacks and kind of seeing flashes of different things. But once he's gotten through the detox and he's talking to the doctor's telling him, the judge is impressed with his progress. And as long as he agrees to stay in the program, finish the program, and submit to periodic drug tests, he will let him out on probation with a suspended time. And Ray tries to refuse the therapy, but the doctor tells him, this isn't optional. We need to do this. Mm-hmm. And he's only going to support his probation to the judge if he agrees. So when he leaves, Ray flips over the table and he ends up tripping and falling, and he lands in some water. And as he's feeling around, he feels the wash basin. But he then hears his mother, and when he turns, he is in his childhood home and he can see his mother. And she tells him that she's not a bad dream, that she's always been with him and all the drugs couldn't erase that. And he tries to tell her that he's kept his promise, but she points out that despite all that he's done, he's allowed the drugs to turn him into a cripple. And he sees George, who tells him that his death was not his fault, which,
that hit me so
yeah.
hard.
And his mother again makes him promise that he will never again let anyone or anything cripple him. And we get kind of an on-screen text, and we do eventually see that the state
of Georgia,
and they are making a public apology, and they have adopted the song Georgia on My Mind as the state song. And the on-screen text tells us that over 40 years, Ray continued to make hit records, and he won Grammys and became an internationally beloved singer. The apology and adoption of this song was, as Birdie said, in 1979. We also learned that Ray never, ever used heroin again. He went on to donate over $20 million to African-American colleges and charities for the blind and deaf. We see several photos and videos of Ray as Georgia on My Mind plays us out.
Yeah, and that's actual footage of him. So yeah, just to finish out, despite his professional success, Charles spent 17 years with that heroin addiction since he was 20. We saw all the arrests, finally going to that rehab facility. There really was a Dr. Friedrich Hacker who really helped him, and he did quit heroin cold turkey. Ooh. And Hacker did teach, you saw the little chessboard there, he did teach him to play chess. That was a side hobby he kept through his whole life, using that special board that you saw with the little pegs and holes. And he got that 5-year suspended sentence and 4 years of probation. In that final scene when Georgia is making that song, the state song, and official apology, and you see B standing next to him like, oh, you're so great. Well, I doubt she was there.
Were they already divorced?
Yes. So Della B. Robinson filed for divorce in 1977 after the years of drug abuse, extramarital affairs, and volatile behavior.
Even saints get fed up. So she had divorced him 2 years before that. So I just wanted to point that out. Also, in that scene, she didn't look happy anyway. No.
She just
it was giving off Melania Trump.
Yeah, a little bit. So as I mentioned before, Charles had fathered a total of 12 children with 10 different women. So to finish out his brood, continuing on after I talked about Renee and Sheila around 1961, Retha Butler was born in 1966, but I could not even see her mother's name. She, as far as I know, is an extremely private person, and there's just not much out there besides her name. Then followed by Alexandra Bertrand, born in 1968, who was the daughter of Mary Chantal Bertrand. And then Vincent Couchunian was 1977, who was the son of Arlette Couchunian, a Parisian singer he met while touring. So, and then Robin Moffat, born in 1978, who was the daughter of Gloria Moffat. And then his final child, Ryan Corey Robinson Denbach, born in 1987, who was the son of Marianne Denbach, who is an attorney. Marianne Denbach is an attorney. She comes into play later when I'll be talking about the children and their struggles with the estate. So, and a lot of his children did go on to do stuff within the entertainment world, particularly music. So I'll talk more about that later. But 1980, performing in the musical film The Blues Brothers.
I love it.
And he shows up in a lot of TV and movies, actually. And on December 7th, 2007, Ray Charles Plaza was opened in Albany, Georgia, with a revolving lighted bronze statue of Ray Charles seated at the piano.
Nice.
That's exactly it. As Brick mentioned earlier, he did in 2002 hold a family luncheon for all his children, but only 10 of the 12 attended. It's not really clear who. You can kind of guess, but he told them at that point that he was terminally ill. He had liver problems because maybe he quit heroin, but I doubt he quit drinking. So he had set up $500,000 trusts for each of his children, which doesn't sound like much, but when you have 12 kids.
Yeah, that's a hefty sum.
That's a hefty sum. But as I will talk about later, this was followed by years of disputes between the children and Charles's estate, which was still run by Joe Adams and continues to today. Joe Adams is still alive. He is 86 years old. So finally, Ray Charles did die on June 10th, 2004 at the age of 73 due to complications resulting from liver failure. He had a longtime girlfriend at that point and partner named Norma Pinella, who was at his side. His funeral was held at the First African Methodist Episcopal Church of Los Angeles 8 days later, with numerous musical figures in attendance. So we got B.B. King, Glenn Campbell, Stevie Wonder, and Wynton Marsalis, and each played a tribute song at the funeral.
Oh.
He was interred in the Inglewood Park Cemetery. His final album, Genius Loves Company, was released posthumously and won 8 Grammy Awards. So his immense legacy includes 17 Grammys, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the creation of the Ray Charles Foundation in 1986. The foundation's mission is to financially support institutions in the research of hearing disorders and the empowerment of young people through education. Ray Charles believed the inability to hear is a handicap, not the inability to see. I could argue with that, but that was what he put out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he relied on. So
it's what he relied on. I get it. That he actually had hearing problems at one point as he got older, and that was where he kind of inspired him. Like, yeah, I gotta hear. So
this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, so I'm gonna gloss over a lot of that, but it's very obvious. I don't think I need to overstate how much his music influenced the music industry and in generations. I mean, Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Van Morrison, and Billy Joel all quote Ray Charles as inspiring them. That he pioneered tons and tons of types of music and innovations of music. And this came out, like I said, 3 to 4 months after he passed away. And Jamie Foxx, who played Ray in this movie, did win the 2005 Academy Award for Best Actor. And I'm sure Brick will talk about some of that. In response to his nickname, Ray Charles once said, "Genius? That's nothing to be ashamed of." But it gives you a sense of responsibility. I'm just an example of the fact that there's something for everyone to do if they just want to do it. Which, okay. And I'll finish off with a quote from Nick Aldieri, who's the virtual music coach, but I really liked his article, Remembering Ray Charles, A Legacy of Genius and Soul. So he said, and I quote, "The legend's popularity saw a resurgence upon the release of the Oscar-winning movie Ray, which was incidentally released only 4 months after his death in October of 2004. Ray is a biopic that encompasses the brilliant but also the gritty, dark side of the genius of Ray Charles. His drug addiction, womanizing, and domestic violence was a reaction to a tortured life of blindness, the tragic loss of his brother at a young age, discrimination and racism, but also his own hubris and ego. He was depicted as a human being capable of greatness, but also experiencing great pain, which I believe is something we can all relate to." Do you want to tell us some fun facts?
Sure. So, as Birdie just mentioned, he did die shortly before the film's released, but he did get to sit through a first edit screening.
Oh, good. Okay.
So yeah, he didn't entirely miss it, and I'm very happy about that. Jamie Foxx had to wear silicone prosthetics over his eyelids, and this actually left him blind for up to 14 hours a day.
Very in character.
Yep. And the first 2 weeks were so rough that he was having panic attacks until he eventually started to get used to it. But he said that throughout filming, they would get up and leave the table after lunch, and the cast and crew would forget that he couldn't see and just kind of leave him there.
Oh my God.
Which is understandable, but at the same time, like, oh man. And I bet that gave him a huge insight into Ray's experience. And he did say that wearing those prosthetics was a very unsettling and claustrophobic feeling. He attended classes at the Braille Institute, and Quincy Jones provided him with some cassettes of a younger Ray performing so that he could get an idea for what he sounded like. And Ray requested and received a copy of the script in Braille, which very glad that they
facilitated that.
Yes. While this was pre-production, the writer-director, he couldn't find a studio that would take the film on, so it had to be made independently. Afterwards, after it was made, Universal decided that they would distribute it, but this was only because one of the executives was such a big fan of Ray Charles that he used to hitchhike to his concerts.
Tell me that's not racism.
Right? Taylor Hackford, the writer, director, producer, he decided to end in the middle of Ray's life because after this, there was no more conflict. He really only had success.
I mean, it's fair.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, yeah, I think they did that. And also, I've heard recently, like, doing an entire biopic about someone's entire life from cradle to grave is just impossible in a movie.
Yeah, it'd have to be like a miniseries.
You're always going to miss stuff. So I think that what they did here was good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Tyler Hackford had secured the rights to tell Ray's life story in 1987, but as we've already said, he couldn't get financing. He couldn't find any studios that would back the film.
Wow.
And this was the first African-American biopic nominated for 6 Academy Awards, and this included Best Actor and Best Picture. So this film made a lot of history.
Yes. Yes, it did.
And those are my fun facts.
All right. Yeah, some of this I already covered, so I'll just kind of skip through. I actually had quite a few fun facts this time. So Ray Charles took part in 11 films, mostly cameos, and 9 TV shows, mostly as himself, which is just fun. That's like, he was such an American icon and is. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, when he was in the McSun trio, which was named for two of the members, McKee and Robinson. So McSun, McKee, and Robinson. And he was playing the 1 to 5 a.m. shift at the Rockin' Chair. And these are also where he got his first publicity photos, are some of the earliest photographs ever of Ray Charles. So as a condition of his contract with Columbia, which was the later contract he had, he insisted that he record an album of duets with some of his favorite country artists. So the result was the #1 album, Friendship, from 1984, which was produced by Billy Sherrill, and which paired Charles with Johnny Cash, Janie Frick, Mickey Gilley, Merle Haggard, George Jones, with Chet Atkins on guitar, Willie Nelson, the Oak Ridge Boys, Ricky Skaggs, B.J. Thomas, and Hank Williams Jr. And his duet with Nelson was a #1 country single called 7 Spanish Angels, which I've never heard. I don't do countries, but, you know, I'm sure this is all very impressive. I'll do a final fun fact on bottle trees. So in the movie, especially in a lot of the flashback scenes back in Greenville, you'll see these with the sun coming through the trees and these bottles hanging on the trees. Yeah, so I knew this was a thing, but I've never really dived into it before. So bottle trees have ancient origins, tracing all the way back to some African cultures where practicality and artistry are merged with superstitions. Enslaved Africans brought this tradition to the Americas, of course, during the transatlantic slave trade and established those roots in the southern United States. So in the South, bottle trees became intertwined with folk beliefs. So according to legend, glass bottles had the power to attract and capture evil spirits at night. Spirits would become mesmerized by the bottle's vivid colors and reflections, trapping them until the morning sunlight destroyed them. Bottle trees were placed near homes and gardens for protection and good luck. Specifically, blue bottles held particular particular significance in this tradition. The color blue was believed to possess mystical qualities, deterring evil spirits more effectively. Spirits were believed to mistake blue bottles for water, compelling them to become trapped within the bottle tree.
Okay.
And this was pretty cool because I learned more about this when I recently learned about a video game called South of Midnight, which totally recommend, that's based in the South and is about a black mother and daughter. And the daughter, there's a hurricane that comes through and the mother kind of gets swept away, but the daughter's trying to find her. And along the way, she learns her father was white. And so there's this like rift between the mother and the mother-in-law, of course. But the daughter learns she has like kind of these powers for weaving. And part of that is pulling in these negative emotions into these bottles that she gets off these bottle trees. It's really fascinating. Highly recommend looking it up. I'm probably not doing the story justice, but the legend is really neat. Yeah, and that's all my fun facts. Do you want to talk about your sources?
Unfortunately, I only have IMDb and Wikipedia because every time I would start to look for a article about the movie or the filming or any kind of background information, I kept getting sidetracked just about his life.
It's an amazing life.
It is. So I kept getting sidetracked by that and realized too late that like, oh my God, I didn't actually read anything about like the production of the movie.
Fair enough. We'll just say it's amazing. So I think we mentioned some of it just a little bit. So,
but if nothing else, he has a biography.
He does, which I did mention. Brother Ray Charles's own story. Mm-hmm. So my sources then, obviously Ray Charles Wikipedia, which always helps me coalesce all my sources. I also learned information from the Ray Charles Foundation website, the Country Music Hall of Fame, their article on Ray Charles, Britannica biography on Ray Charles, and then Smithsonian music website talking about Ray Charles and disability. And then also an article from the IBVI Industries for the Blind and Visually Impaired, who told the story of Ray Charles and also in the context of disability. And then also You Discover article, Vision of a Genius, the Legacy of Brother Ray Charles. Then the LA Times, which I will bring up in my outtakes, Ray Charles's children's battle over his legacy from the Los Angeles Times. And then 12 children, 10 baby mamas, and a $75 million cash pot, the complicated legacy of Ray Charles from Know Your Instrument. And then also, as I mentioned, the virtual music coach, Remembering Ray Charles, a legacy of genius and soul, from Blavity on Celebrity. Again, his children are extremely private, so like we're digging the bottom barrel of sources about them. So again, grain of salt there. But who are Ray Charles's children? Here's what we know about all 12, which again will come up in the outtake episode. And then from the Beaumont House, the enchanting history of bottle trees in the South. And all these will be put into our show notes with the episode. What are we watching next, Brick?
So we're going back quite a ways. We are going to watch Ever After, which has long been a favorite of mine.
So we're going to have some fun with this one. I've kind of already touched on it, and oh boy.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't wait.
The swirling of history.
I can't wait.
Together.
So Birdie sent me a little blurb of just the little bit of notes that she already had, and the dates not lining up.
Oh my God.
And yeah, that made me laugh. That was great. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and hopefully not so many trigger words. We'll try to twist it up a bit, here. So looking forward to that. Thank you for listening to Celluloid Chronicles, a historical movie podcast. Please like and subscribe to us wherever you listen, because we're out there now. And we hope you join us again soon.
And always remember,
live like you're making history.